So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, recorded live on blogtalkradio.com on January 25, 2008. Here's something you probably don't know about Mr. Media. The second of my 9 books was actually about football. Why men watch football, in fact. So when the opportunity to interview Bob Horowitz came about, how could I resist? Bob is the creator and producer of the annual special, Super Bowl's Greatest Commercials 2008, which airs on Saturday, January 26 at 8 p.m. Eastern on CBS television. You may also know one of Bob's other creations, The Singing Bee, which was a summer hit for NBC in 2007. Bob, welcome to Mr. Media.
Listen. Hello.
Hi, is it Bob? Is this Bob Horowitz?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, it's Bob Horowitz.
Hi, Bob. I thought so. Welcome to Mr. Media.
Thank you.
I'm fascinated by your show. As a football fan and someone who's done a little writing about why men watch football, I actually find it kind of hard to believe anyone still scoffs at the notion that half the fun of Super Bowl is the commercials. But I'm guessing there must be a few.
I mean, the people that scoff at it, I mean, that's I think that's a major reason for the mega numbers that are associated with the event. You know, it's funny because in television, you often hear the season finale of XYZ TV show is going to be brought to you without commercial interruption, courtesy of General Motors, Ford, whomever. All right, and that's done as a media stunt, and they believe that will help the ratings. There are commercials in prime time are limited in terms of breaks, say, versus the sports day part, because they feel that will help ratings, right? Less commercial interruptions. You have you have this whole thing about TiVo and fast forwarding through commercials, and what do you do about that? All of it 180 degrees different with respect to the Super Bowl. If you took the commercials out of the Super Bowl, the rating would go down. Yes, the rating. I mean, Super Bowl is the only thing that people will TiVo and fast forward to watch the commercials.
Well, and of course, there have been many, many years where the commercials have been vastly more interesting than the game itself. Right.
But I think that's very much like watching, and this is my personal opinion, like watching a Saturday Night Live. Some Saturday Night Live skits are funnier than other weeks' Saturday Night Live skits. And that's really what Super Bowl commercials are. They're these clever 30, 60-second skits that are entertaining and that viewers like to watch. So that when we, on Super Bowl's Greatest Commercials, string them all together as a 1-hour show, that's why it does so well, because people love to be entertained watching them.
I was just thinking another analogy with Saturday Night Live, actually. When that show begins, just like the Super Bowl, everybody's on their edge of the seat. What's it going to be this week? How's it going to go? And usually just after the weekend update, or in the case of the Super Bowl, the halftime, interest starts to peter out. So you need something to keep it going. And in the Super Bowl case, you got the commercials.
Well, yeah, and the genesis of the idea was not I didn't create it on a mountaintop. So then what's going to be the next primetime TV special? Right? It was just a observation of watching people at a Super Bowl party 8 years ago in New York City that I was attending. That they're watching the game. They're watching the game, and there's that buffet table with the sandwiches and the chili and all that. During the game, there are people mulling around there talking, "Hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Great, da 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 da." All of a sudden, it went to commercial, timeout, game goes to commercial. People rush back from the buffet table to watch the commercials. So I kind of said, well, commercials,
did you ever imagine,
they deserve their own show.
Well, did you ever imagine you'd be doing this for, I guess this is 8 years now?
Yeah, no. Although every year, it's funny. We sit there before the show, Steve Mayer, myself, the other executive producer, and we go, what should we do differently? And we both have this, call it a governor, where we're just careful that if we go too far, one pinches the other one and says, just remember, people just want to watch the old commercials. We don't have to be so creative. The creativity was already done when the commercials were made.
Now, tell me about the show. It's a countdown format, right?
It's a countdown format in a show where we have selected, over the years of doing the Super Bowl, commercial show, we've mulled through all the various commercials. We've, had fans vote on them. So we kind of come up with our top 10. So producers of the show come up with the top 10 commercials. They've been parked on CBS.com. So over the course of the past month, viewers, online users have been able to go to CBS.com to view those commercials. They've voted on their favorite. And in the show, we're going to start with number 10 and count them down. The Jim Nance will go with Daisy Fuentes from 10 to 9 to 8 to 7 to 6 to 5 to 4. And when we get to 4, and we're going to stop, and we're going to announce the final 3. So these are the top 3 commercials as voted on over the past month on CBS.com. And then we're going to open it live to viewers across America on CBS to vote on one of those 3 spots as their favorite commercial of all time. And what's at stake here is that we have a Super Bowl game where we have New England going for the first perfect 19-0 season, and we have Mean Joe Green going for a perfect 7-0. So that's so we'll see whether he gets unseated this year.
So are you saying that Mean Joe, that Coke commercial is in the top 3?
I would say there's a good chance of that.
What have been some of your own favorites over the years?
I love the Budweiser spots. I love clever commercials. I love those commercials that have you going, where's this going? Where's this going? I know there's some big moment here at the end. funny, right? So, I love clever, funny spots. So I love the Budweiser commercials. I love the ones with the Clydesdales and the dogs, where they also tug at, that emotional, the emotional part of you. But then again, I also love those commercials that do not cost a lot of money, but that are clever. Because there's this misnomer that says, Super Bowl commercials, that if they cost now upwards of $3 million to buy, they should cost the most amount of money to produce. It isn't the case. So one of my favorites to make that point would be the FedEx spot. I don't know if you remember that one where, all of a sudden the commercial comes up and it's just bars in tone with that annoying right? And then a crawl comes, below the bars in tone that says, our ad agency bought this commercial for $2 million. Unfortunately, they didn't use FedEx to get the spot to the network. It never made it there. Right. We have fired our ad agency and we're out $2 million. How much did that cost? $10 to make, right? And yet it made the point of what FedEx is all about. So it's not always about the gazillion dollars and the special effects, even though some of those are very, very clever. So anyway, those are some of my favorites.
Bob, how important is, and maybe we can kind of balance these, humor in these commercials versus talking animals versus celebrities? Is there a hierarchy of what works and what doesn't?
No, I really don't think so. The P. Diddy stuff was great. The Cindy Crawford Pepsi stuff was great. It has been great. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, all those celebrity spots, the Nothing But Net,
right.
all great. So celebrity at the right moment, celebrity meets clever, great. I love that. I think the animals, tug at those emotional, just to tug at your emotions. I think those are the other group of great spots. So either the emotion or the celebrity clever.
I want to give out our phone number. I know we've got a number of people in our web chat in the chat room right now, and if there are people waiting to call in and ask Bob Horowitz some questions about the Super Bowl commercial special, the number is 646-595-3135. That's 646-595-3135, and that will only work if you are listening live right now. Bob, am I wrong in thinking that the humorous commercials are usually the most successful?
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right. I would say the most successful, as in the water cooler conversation. Most successful now. Now you have the USA Today ad meters, like the ratings in the morning. That come afterwards, and there. It's not necessarily all about the funny, the humorous. I think, though, if you're talking about water cooler voting, you got to be funny. You got to be funny.
Now, of course, there are exceptions. The Macintosh ad, of course, the 1984 ad, and of course the one you mentioned, Mean Joe Green, which recurs every year. But I know when I think about Super Bowl ads, I want to laugh, particularly if the game sucks. I want
right.
I want to laugh in between because I know the football announcers are not going to make me laugh.
Right.
I know if Janet Jackson is going to come in at halftime and flash
have
me,
her right.
Yeah,
have her wardrobe malfunction. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking that Kevin Federline's spot last year, parodying himself, that in retrospect, and I can't say we thought that at the time, but in retrospect, that did as much for turning around his public image as Britney Spears publicly crashing and burning since then did for him.
No, exactly. I mean, and again, I think that Kevin Federline and his management team was quite clever to do that spot of him flipping burgers, right?
Right.
Because it was self-deprecating. I think it was he made fun of himself, and I think that got people to maybe think just a little bit nicer of Kevin Federline. We actually have him in the show. I can't give away what we're doing, but we will show that spot again, and then we did a little Saturday night take-off little skit with Kevin in this year's show that he cooperated in leading us through some commercials. So that'll be in the show Saturday night at 8 on CBS.
I would have never have guessed that a year later I would actually think more of him than of her. It's just it's interesting.
Yeah, pretty unbelievable.
Long term, do you have any thoughts on which brands have benefited the most from their Super Bowl spots?
Well, that's a good question. Probably Budweiser. Look, I would say Budweiser and Pepsi. Coke has had great ads, but I think the Pepsi ads have been very funny. And have done a lot for Pepsi, and the same obviously for Budweiser. But there you're talking about two either brand leaders or number 1-2s that that don't necessarily need the Super Bowl. Budweiser's 8 spots in the game. They're going to be Budweiser number 1 no matter what. But as old man Wrigley said in advertising, to some reporter that was asking him, why do you advertise when you have 100% market share with Wrigley's gum? And they were flying in a propeller plane. He said, the reporter, look outside, and he said, just because we're flying along fine doesn't mean you cut the engines, So, I think if you're Budweiser, you do it because you're the market leader and people expect you to do it. And I think they turn. I do believe deep down inside why it gets the big rating is people are looking for Budweiser to do that. They're the creative. And so, Budweiser and Pepsi would be my answer.
And what is the mark of an unsuccessful commercial that debuts on Super Bowl Sunday?
Say it again. What is the...
What's kind of the mark of an unsuccessful commercial on Super Bowl?
I'm not going to say any by name because I really don't. Part of the unsuccessful, I don't remember who they are. But I think a lot of the .coms were unsuccessful. Where they got to be too cute, they tried to play like FedEx, and it fell flat. look at the GoDaddy spots. GoDaddy.com. That's pretty unbelievable. The ads might be a little disgusting, but they're, they definitely are clever. So there's one that maybe, does something to push the needle and be a little affecting, and they're successful for a different reason.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to last year, and I remember that at the end of the game, we looked at it and we're talking about the commercials, and it just seemed like there were a lot of people that had spent a ton of money on commercials that they thought would dazzle us, and they weren't funny, they didn't really get the point of their product across. Mm-hmm. And they weren't memorable. And I can't even think of those brands now, but I remember at the time thinking, man, what a waste.
Right. Well, think about it. That's like GoDaddy.com. Where do you see GoDaddy spots? Really nowhere, other than the Super Bowl. And so they're ones that, that you'd say, I guess they're successful because look at, every year, 11 months, 3 weeks later, we're still talking about them, Mm-hmm. Versus those that you say, I can't remember, but I know there were some there that weren't good. And therein lies the point of they just weren't good because you don't remember.
Now, Bob, have you ever done commercials? Have you ever worked in that medium?
No. As an avocation, with I'm involved in the marketing of our TV shows, and I'd like to think that that my fascination with Super Bowl spots is I like to be creative with promo spots, or if I were to be dabbling as a producer, but I have not done it as a profession, no. Okay.
I was just curious about that. Okay. And have you already seen this year's Super Bowl spots? Are you privy to those?
We've seen some of them, the GoDaddy spots. We've seen one of the Budweiser spots where the Clydesdale and the Dalmatian, the dog, are training together. Some of them we have seen. You have to watch the show to see because it's embargoed until tomorrow night. But the Budweiser one is very good.
Okay. Let me give out our phone number again. I know, like I say, we have some action in the chat room. The phone number to call in, and if you want to ask Bob Horowitz a question directly, 646-595-3135, or if you're in the chat room and you'd like to text a message, I'll be happy to ask a question for you. Do celebs have any edge over talking animals?
No. No, I don't think so. And we talked about the Kevin Federline spot. I think that was great, right? Then you remember the Budweiser spot with the chimp that was talking, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's great. The EDS cat herder spot. Yeah. They're all over the place. I really don't think that it really really matters. It's just all about that which is clever. Again, go back to your Saturday Night Live, analogy. The one that I said about Saturday Night Live. They always have the guest star, right? Of the Saturday Night Live. The skit is funny, or it's not, really having nothing to do with whether the star of that night is in that skit. Sometimes when they're the main character and they nail it, it's really, really funny. And that would be the equivalent of a Super Bowl spot that has marquee talent doing the commercial, Kevin Federline, right? Mm-hmm. The Kevin Federline Super Bowl spot could be Saturday Night Live. But then again, you could see the Saturday Night Live skit in a Saturday Night Live show that just happened to not have the star as the main character there. And it was every bit as funny, if not more funny. It's just entertaining. It really depends.
Now, you're the host of the show, Daisy Fuentes and Jim Nance.
Right.
I'm thinking, wasn't Daisy in a Super Bowl commercial some time back?
Oh my God! So you're asking a question there that I don't think is the case, but I don't know that answer. But I don't think so, but maybe.
Let's get our crack research team working on that. Maybe somebody can get back to us.
What's your favorite spot? What's your favorite commercial?
I've always liked Spuds MacKenzie.
Right.
I've always liked the animals. I like the horse kicking the field goal. I don't know why. It just I
You mean with the one
that.
I think they should have gone for 2.
Right.
Right.
I know what I didn't like. The one that keeps coming back to mind. It was actually a FedEx spot, which I just thought was dumb. Was the cavemen?
Yep.
The guy, steps outside and gets squashed by the dinosaur.
He kicks the dog and then gets stepped on. Right.
Yeah.
That scores pretty well in our show.
Does it really?
Hint, hint. Yep.
That one just didn't work so much for me.
I have to say, I have to agree with you. That it has scored well over the years, but I don't necessarily like it. Do you remember the Chevy Chase one, the one potato chip whip where they stopped him in the middle of the commercial and he got canceled?
I'm thinking about that now that you mention it. Yeah.
That was a great one too.
Now, do you feel at all guilty creating a show in which all the programming is commercials and the content is then surrounded by more commercials?
No, because as I said that I mean the premise all the way through is the fact that again, just thinking of that Super Bowl commercials. If you did, are you there? Yep. Yeah. Super Bowl commercials. If you didn't have in the Super Bowl game the commercials, the rating would go down. And again, there isn't anybody. I mean, I'd argue that to my grave. I mean, that I believe is the truth. So why then is that the case? Because they're entertaining. So to build a show around entertaining content that just happens to be old commercials, surrounded by natural commercial breaks, it is what it is. And, I can't say anything more about it than that. And I think that is the case. It's there. You have to think of them as little, vignettes, a la Saturday Night Live, that, they go on the air to sell, right, to entertain and sell, and then they walk off to become content in a primetime CBS Super Bowl commercial show. That's their life after first air.
Right. Do the brands whose commercials you run from past years, do they benefit, or, and I'm sure the answer to this is no, but do they ever have to pay anything for this new exposure?
No. In fact, it's to the contrary. When it first came up with doing the show, and we said, well, we've sold this show to CBS. And we go, whoa, you guys must be making a lot of money because, this is all free. Well, what people don't necessarily understand is that when the company gives you the right to run a commercial, there are all the clearance costs, which is the music, the talent, the director, all the actors, everybody that's involved. And the clearances to clear the spots on our 1-hour CBS primetime show is upwards of $200,000. And, that's just, so we're sitting there saying, oh, do we put in the Budweiser spot? Well, you realize the Budweiser spot's going to cost $15,000 to run, because there is a budget. And, so anyway, the companies, I think, gladly like to see you, run some. I mean, we had on for numbers of years the Terry Tate Reebok spot, and then Reebok and Terry Tate relationship kind of went sideways. You haven't seen that on the air in our show, and yet I think that's a great spot.
Well, and that kind of feeds into another question I had, is have any of the brands, any of the companies ever declined to participate or release their ads?
Not really, no.
And none that you really felt you had to have?
No, exactly. Any of the ones that were important we've gotten.
Okay. And let's get a nice word in for your hosts. Is this Daisy and Jim? Have they done this special before?
Yes, for a couple of years, and they did it last year, did this year. It's a great compliment because Jim hosts the show. Will host a show from the stadium where the Super Bowl is played, and then so he's the staple to give you the countdown. And then this year we have Daisy that is at our own Super Bowl party where she'll be with, fans and some guests and et cetera, and, they'll go back and forth. So it adds a little entertainment value besides just seeing, two people standing next to each other.
Well, I want to change gears since we have you here. You have another little program that has been a bit of a hit, The Singing Bee.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that came to be and what where the future for that show is?
Well, again, very similar to Super Bowl's Greatest Commercials, which was observation of human behavior. This was observation of walking down the street, again, New York City, of a marquee that was for Spelling Bee the Musical. And the Spelling Bee the Musical, and, well, why can't there be Singing Bee the show? If you can sing, Spelling Bee, they sing, if they have to spell the words, you have to sing the words, okay, the lyrics. And like most ideas, what you got to do is you got to stop for a while because, usually after 24 hours in that incubation period, 99% of the ideas you had 24 hours before are terrible.
Yeah.
Because it just, what was I thinking? But this was one 24 hours later was, hey, that's a pretty good idea. So threw it in the whole development mix, and I spoke to Louis Fenton, who was our head of development. We got Phil Gurin, a buddy of mine, longtime friend, to partner and develop with us. And we came up with, this variety game show with a great host in Joey Fatone. We've done 19 episodes on NBC. It's now being seen in 35 countries around the world, all except for Australia, all in native tongue. They do it with their own local songs. And it's a hit around the world, and here we plan to have it back on NBC this summer. I mean, we've done 19 episodes so far. I tend to believe, as does Phil, that we're more of a summer show than we are of a fall show, because I just think it's summer fun entertainment, and it's just proven to be a winner, and we got lucky.
That's amazing that it's in that many countries. I mean, a Wild Hair becomes a franchise, I guess.
Right. Well, everybody sings in lyrics that they think they know that they really don't know. And it's just playing off of human behavior. People singing in the car, those who sing in the shower. It's just been a big hit.
So, do you have a return date yet? And
no, that's what we're discussing right now with NBC.
Okay.
But our focus and emphasis right now is on our global shows and our producers that are, in Chile and Israel and, all around the world, Turkey, Russia. We're like doing 80 episodes in Russia. We were the number one show in Scandinavia. I mean, it's a pretty amazing story.
And will in the NBC edition, will Joey Fatone and the Honeybees, will they return?
Yeah, I mean that. I would plan, Joey for sure, and I think while the Honeybees are not the hosts, right? I think they are a fun, entertaining side, But all that being said, I think to keep a success going, you always have to, to zero base and figure out, what's the new improved thing. I mean, you tie it back to what we've been discussing, Super Bowl. New England goes on to beat the Giants, and they're 19-0. They'll have 46 players that will suit up for the game. All 46 players won't be back the next year because they'll do something new and different to try to win again. And so I think Phil and I will go back and we'll figure out how best to use the Honeybees, and and I can't see that show without Joey being our host forever. He is so tied to that show and has been such a big part of the success.
That guy's had an interesting career. I mean, he was obviously a boy band guy, and then he does a dance show. Who would have figured? And then now he's doing this. It's
right. I mean, they're pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
Pretty unbelievable. I mean, it's been I mean, what a ride for him, you know?
And were you guys at all competitive in any way with the, I guess it was on Fox, the Don't Forget the Lyrics? Was that all just, you know, I mean, did anybody steal from anybody, or was it just one of those strange TV land coincidences?
Well, we sold first, we announced first, we got on the air first.
So basically, Bob, you're saying you were first.
We were not second.
Okay.
I don't see how people that are first can steal.
All right.
So.
Well, Bob, I really appreciate you joining us on the show
it's
today.
Great. It's been great to be a part, and anytime we're glad to be involved. And I hope you watch again tomorrow night, Saturday night, 8 o'clock on CBS, and watch and vote.
And let me ask you, if listeners miss the show when it's broadcast on Saturday, this being the era of online, will it be available for online download anywhere?
No, I don't think it'll be. I don't know on CBS.com. It's interesting that you asked that. I don't think so. I do know that next week it will be on the NFL Network a couple times. So if you missed it on CBS, you can watch on the NFL Network.
Very good. Very good. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate your time. And maybe we'll get to do this again next year.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
All righty.
Bye-bye. And remember, folks, you can catch Super Bowl's Greatest Commercials 2008 on Saturday, January 26th at 8 p.m. on CBS. And for many more celebrity and media newsmaker interviews, surf over to our main website, www.mrmedia.com, where you can listen to my earlier conversations with Billy Bob Thornton, Cheryl Hines, Milo Ventimiglia, David Fury, Anna Gunn, Stefan Pastis, and many, many others. And thanks so much for joining us on Mr. Media. Bye-bye, everybody.